One of the most common repairs on faucets is the replacement of the rubber washer located on the bottom of the valve unit. First, make sure you turn off the water supply at the stop valve underneath the sink. Then, turn on the faucet until the water stops flowing. Next, remove the handle. You may have to pry the decorative cap off first with a screwdriver or sharp-pointed knife to expose the screw. Remove this cap very carefully in order to prevent breaking the pressure prongs which hold the cap in place. Then, remove the decorative bonnet with a wrench. Once the packing nut is exposed, remove it by turning it counterclockwise. If the packing nut does not turn easily, tap the wrench to loosen it. Next, remove the stem and washer assembly. It is sometimes easier to replace the handle on the stem to provide a better grip for pulling the stem out. Once the valve unit is out, remove the old washer by removing the brass screw that holds it in place. Do this carefully. If the brass screw is old and corroded, it may break apart when you're trying to remove it. Apply pressure towards the valve unit while turning slowly. Next, install a new washer and a brass screw if necessary. Reassemble the faucet parts and put the unit back into the faucet housing. Tighten the packing nut and then put the handle back on. Once everything is back in place, turn the faucet off and the water supply valves on. Then test the repair. If you still get leaking, try tightening the packing nut, or you may have the wrong size washer. In the end, you will have a trouble-free faucet that will save you money on water costs and the repair itself. When an electric cord is damaged, a decision must be made either to repair the cord or to replace it. In either case, the repair should be made as soon as possible. A faulty cord could cause damage to an appliance or possibly start a fire. First, cut out the damaged section of cord with a utility knife or wire cutters. Then, cut back the outer cover so at least 4 inches of coated wire are exposed. The easiest way to do this is to cut down the center of the wire and then peel back the outer cover. Using heavy-duty scissors or wire cutters, trim the coated wire in an offset splice. This will strengthen the repair. Next, trim about a ½ inch of the coating off each wire with wire strippers. Be careful not to cut the fine strands of wire. Bring the wires together, twisting the black strands together and then the white strands together. Make these connections smooth and tight. Next, individually tape the black and white wires, completely covering the splice area with at least 2 layers of tape. You can do this by overlapping the tape by half its width when wrapping. Then, tape the black and white wires together, keeping the tape smooth and tight. Keep this second taping from touching the outer cover. Finally, wrap the complete wire, outer cover and all, beginning from about 1 inch before the splice area, continuing smoothly and evenly across the splice to 1 inch beyond. Test the appliance and your repair. It is important to maintain electric appliances to ensure a safe home for you and your family. If you are experiencing any leaking from your bathtub to the floor below, it could be that the seal around your bathtub is worn. This seal, often referred to as grout, is a waterproof putty that keeps water away from the adjacent wall. First, prepare the surface by removing the old filler with a putty knife or chisel. Then, wash the surface to remove any soap, grease, or dirt. Follow this by drying the surface before applying the sealer. For this repair, we're using pre-mixed grout because it's quick and easy to use, although it does cost a bit more than the other types of sealer. First, spread the grout over the crack to be filled. You can accomplish this with a putty knife, grout float, or simply use your fingers. Next, press the grout down into the crack, completely filling the space. Finally, smooth over the surface by running the fingerprint side of your finger along the sealed crack. You may want to first dip your finger into a paper cup filled with water and a splash of dishwashing detergent to make it smoother. To ensure a strong seal, wait 24 to 48 hours before using the bathtub. Each sealer is different, so be sure to check the manufacturer's instructions for the best results. When the grout has had time to harden, check for leaking. If there is none, then your repair was successful. Water damage is expensive to repair, especially when it affects the structure of your house. A periodic inspection of your bathtub can avoid costly repairs in the future. If tile is not installed properly, it will lose its contact to the floor over time. Replacing flexible tile is a fairly simple process, but requires careful work. First, remove the loose or damaged tile from the surface. If the tile does not come off easily, a warm iron can help to soften the adhesive. Scrape off the old adhesive from the surface. If you're using the existing tile, you should scrape the adhesive off the tile as well. Lay out the tiles on the surface to make sure they fit in place. If you need to cut tile, measure the area carefully. Measuring twice and cutting once is a good rule of thumb. Then, mark the tile with a pen and cut carefully using a utility knife or a linoleum cutter. If you use a utility knife, make sure the surface underneath is protected from the blade. A piece of wood will do the trick. Next, spread tile adhesive on the surface with a paintbrush or putty knife. Wait until the adhesive begins to set before placing the tile. Finally, press the tile firmly in place. Once you have the tile set, run a rolling pin over the tile to evenly apply pressure to the setting tile. This will also help even out the adhesive. This is a simple and rewarding repair that you can do in just a few hours, and the results will brighten your home for all to enjoy. A damaged screen can be the source of insects invading the house, especially during the summer when the windows are open. Repairing screens is a very simple and inexpensive process. First, trim the hole in the screen using scissors or a utility knife to make smooth edges. Measure the space to be repaired and cut a rectangular patch 1 inch larger than the hole. Here we are using a pre-cut screen patch to simplify the repair. Remove the 3 outside wires on all 4 sides of the patch. Using a block of wood or a ruler, bend the ends of the wires on all 4 sides. Next, place the patch over the hole from the outside with the bent ends going through the screen toward the inside. have someone else hold it tight against the screen or tape it into place with masking tape. Then, from the inside, bend the wire ends of the patch toward the center of the hole, securing the patch onto the screen. This quick repair will not only save the rest of the screen from more damage, but will keep the insects outside where they belong. Sounds like little Timmy next door just hit a line drive right through your window. No problem, you can fix that. First, measure the area carefully where the broken glass is and order a piece of glass cut to size. Working from the outside of the window frame, remove the broken glass with pliers to avoid cutting your fingers. Make sure you wear heavy work gloves for extra protection. Next, remove the old putty with a putty knife or chisel. Then, remove the glazier points. Pliers will be helpful for this. Clean up around the area before continuing on to the next steps. After all the damaged material is removed, place a thin ribbon of putty in the frame and place the glass firmly against the putty. Next, insert the glazier points at the corners of the glass and then every 4 to 6 inches along the sides. Tap them in carefully to prevent breaking the glass. Finally, fill the groove with putty or glazing compound. Press it firmly against the glass with a putty knife. Then smooth the surfaces with one continuous stroke of the putty knife along the groove. The putty should form a smooth seal around the window. Allow at least a week for it to dry and then paint it if necessary. Your window will look as good as new, at least until the next inning. You can fill a hole or crack in wallboard using spackling compound or patching plaster. If the hole is very small, for example a nail hole, simply fill the hole with spackle using a putty knife. If it's deep, you may need to do it in stages, as explained later. To fill a large crack, first remove any loose plaster and scrape out the back edge of the crack with a knife until the back part of the hole is wider than the front surface. Next, dampen the surface of the crack with a wet cloth or paintbrush. This will help the spackle seal to the wallboard or plaster. Press the mixture into the crack until the crack is completely filled. Smooth the surface with a putty knife. When spackle dries, it tends to shrink, so you may have to apply a second, smaller coating. It's okay to leave it a little rough on the surface. If the hole is deep, you may need to fill it in stages. First, partly fill the hole. Let the patch dry. Then, fill the hole some more and let that dry. Continue this process until the hole is completely filled and covered over. Once the spackle is dry, smooth the surface with sandpaper wrapped around a small piece of wood. Now you can paint or wallpaper over it to match the surroundings. This repair does take some time, but in the end, your house will be a better looking place to live in. Because doors are used so often in a house, you may find it necessary to inspect and repair on a regular basis, possibly as often as once a month. 3 of the most common problems with doors are: the door squeaks, the doorknob rattles, and the door sticks or drags. You can usually stop a door from squeaking by applying a few drops of oil at the top of each hinge. Move the door back and forth to work the oil into the hinge. If the squeaking does not stop, raise the pin and add more oil. To stop the rattle of the knob, loosen the set screw on the knob and then remove the knob. Place a small piece of putty or modeling clay into the knob. Put the knob back on as far as possible and tighten the screw. The putty will help make the doorknob sit more firmly in place. First, tighten the screws in the hinges. If the screws are not holding, replace them one at a time using longer screws. Or insert a wooden matchstick in the hole and put the old screw back in. If the door still sticks, look for a shiny spot on the door where the sticking is most noticeable. Sand down the shiny spot, but not too much or the door won't fit as tight as it should. If neither of these solutions solves the problem, it may just be that the door or frame is badly out of shape. Therefore, you may have to remove the door and plane down the part that sticks. Keeping your doors and their parts maintained will prolong their use for years to come. We usually don't think of our furniture as being in the home repair category, but they sometimes need repair, and they are in our homes. Drawers are commonplace in the average home and often need extra attention, especially when the weather changes and the humidity change causes the wood of the drawer to expand or contract. The two most common problems with drawers are loose handles and knobs and sticking drawers. To tighten a handle or knob, simply tighten the screw with a screwdriver from the inside of the drawer. If the handle or knob needs to be replaced, a new one can be purchased at almost any local hardware store. If you're having trouble with sticking drawers, there are three basic solutions. Look for shiny places on the top and bottom edges or on the sides of the drawer and sand down these shiny areas. Rub the drawer and the frame, where they touch, with candle wax, paraffin, or soap. This will help the drawers to glide easier. If glides are badly worn and the drawer front strikes the frame, causing the drawer not to close all the way, then the drawer will have to be raised up. Remove the drawer and insert 2 or 3 large smooth-head thumbtacks along the front of each glide. These are simple repairs that will help maintain some of the furniture in your house. Tools are fairly easy to use, but there are a few tricks of the trade that can assist you when making repairs. Most of us learn to use a hammer at a very early age, when we try to hammer the square peg into the round hole in our toy workbench. What we don't learn is if we hold it nearer the end of the handle, we will get more hitting power for less work. When removing a nail, place a small block of wood under the head of the hammer to avoid marking the wood, and pull up on the nail with the claw end of the hammer. A hand saw with about 7 to 10 teeth per inch is good for most household work. When making a cut with a hand saw, pull the saw back towards your body several times to start the cut, allowing the weight of the saw to do the work. Hold the saw at a 45 to 60 degree angle to the board while making the cut. To insert a blade, loosen the grips and place the blade with the teeth slanted toward the handle. Use the entire length of the blade for cutting. Short strokes will overheat the blade, causing it to break. When filing, secure the object to be filed in a vise. Hold the file diagonally with one hand on the handle to push the tool and the heel of the other hand on the front end of the tool to guide it. Move the file in one direction at a right angle to the work, holding the file perfectly flat. The roof of your home is one of the most important protections against weather. It should be inspected for damage at least once a year. You can accomplish this simply by setting up a ladder against the house and examining the roof from the roof's edge. If you notice a crack in the roofing, here's what to do. First, clean out the crack and the area around the crack. Then, using a brush or putty knife, place a thin layer of asphalt cement over the crack. The cement should completely cover the cleaned area around the crack. Next, cut a piece of roofing felt a little larger than the crack. Place it over the cement and press it firmly in place. Nail the edges on the felt piece using broadhead roofing nails, spacing the nails about 1 to 1.5 inches apart. Finally, spread another layer of cement over the felt piece, making sure the cement extends 1 to 1.5 inches beyond all edges of the felt piece. Remember, when making any repairs on the roof, be extremely cautious to avoid any accidents. The slope and height of the roof often make it challenging to complete even the simplest of repairs. This repair will help to maintain the life of your roof and the home you live in. One of the primary causes of leaks in the roof is damaged shingles. If you have asphalt shingles on your roof, follow these steps to fix any noticeable damage. First, locate the damaged area and examine the condition. If the shingle does not need replacing, simply raise the damaged or torn shingle and apply an ample amount of asphalt cement to the underside. Then, press the shingle firmly into place and nail it down with broad-headed galvanized roofing nails, followed by an application of more roofing cement to the nail heads. If the shingle needs replacing, select a strip the same size as the piece to be replaced. Your asphalt roofing will usually come in shingle strips. Some roofing is in single separate shingles. Next, raise the shingles above the damaged one and remove the nails from the damaged shingle using a claw hammer. Then, remove the damaged shingle. Slip the new shingle in place and nail with broad-headed roofing nails. Place 2 nails to each tab for a total of 6 nails per shingle. The shingle above the new one should hide the nails. Don't forget to apply some roofing cement to the nail heads. Remember, when making any repair on the roof, be extremely cautious to avoid any accidents. The slope and height of the roof often make it challenging to complete even the simplest of repairs. This repair will help to maintain the life of your roof and the home you live in. When inspecting a roof for damage, it's easy to overlook the plumbing vents. The area around the vent is just as susceptible to damage as the rest of the roof. Plumbing vents are flashed with a specially made device consisting of a circular collar soldered to a flat sheet. If you experience any leaks at the joint between the collar and the flat surface, seal the metal with aluminized caulking compound. If the leaks occur between the flat metal surface and the roofing, make certain that the surface is properly nailed in place and then apply a heavy coat of asphalt roofing cement where the two join. Remember, when making any repair on the roof, be extremely cautious to avoid any accidents. The slope and height of the roof often make it challenging to complete even the simplest of repairs. This repair will help to maintain the life of your roof and the home you live in. If your house siding is constructed with wood shingles, it is fairly simple to replace any damaged shingles with new ones. First, using a chisel and hammer, splinter the shingle into small, slender pieces and carefully remove them so as not to damage the remaining shingles. Pull out the exposed nails with a claw hammer. Next, examine the building paper underneath and patch any tears or cuts with asphalt cement. Finally, slip the new shingle into position and nail the shingle in place with galvanized shingle nails. Then you can paint or stain the shingle to match the existing siding if necessary. Just remember, if you're working on a ladder, be sure the ladder is secure and that you take your time with the repair. And that's all there is to it. Now your siding looks as good as new. Here is a collection of 10 of the most common tips in exterior painting. While there are many other steps involved in painting any surface, these should help you get started rather quickly. Always read the manufacturer's directions on any paint or primer cans. Clean all surfaces before applying paint. Prime all new wood with paint primer. Paint on a clear, calm day with temperatures between 50 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Apply 3 coats of paint for new surfaces, 2 coats for old surfaces if done every 5 years, and 1 coat for old surfaces if done every 3 years. Always mix the paint thoroughly. Never dip the brush more than 1/3 of the length of the bristles. Begin painting the highest parts of the house and work downward. On flat surfaces, apply the paint first in long horizontal strokes. Then cross these strokes by painting up and down. This will use less paint. Use a roller when possible. A roller requires less skill, less work, and it's faster than using a brush. You will benefit from painting your house periodically over the years. The surfaces will be protected from deterioration, and you will avoid more costly repairs in the future. A damaged screen can be the source of insects invading the house, especially during the summer when the windows are open. Repairing screens is a very simple and inexpensive process. First, trim the hole in the screen using scissors or a utility knife to make smooth edges. Measure the space to be repaired and cut a rectangular patch 1 inch larger than the hole. Here we are using a pre-cut screen patch to simplify the repair. Remove the 3 outside wires on all 4 sides of the patch. Using a block of wood or a ruler, bend the ends of the wires on all 4 sides. Next, place the patch over the hole from the outside with the bent ends going through the screen toward the inside. Have someone else hold it tight against the screen or tape it into place with masking tape. Then, from the inside, bend the wire ends of the patch toward the center of the hole, securing the patch onto the screen. This quick repair will not only save the rest of the screen from more damage, but will keep the insects outside where they belong. One of the most common repairs on windows, especially in older homes, is the replacement of glazing around window edges. Using a chisel, carefully remove the cracked and loose putty from the frame. Then, lightly rub over the wooden frame with steel wool or sandpaper to smooth out the surface. Next, apply a coat of linseed oil to the exposed wood frame. Then, using a putty knife, reseal the glass with a bead of putty or plastic glazing. Press the putty firmly in place to assure a tight seal. Slowly run the putty knife over the glazing at a slight angle along the length of the seal. This will make a beveled edge around the window pane to allow for water roll-off. Allow approximately a week for the putty to dry, and then paint it to match the existing trim. This will not only make your windows look better, but will help prevent heat loss and strengthen your window frames. This is a quick overview of the places that typically need to be filled with caulk. Take some time to examine these areas on your home. Between windows and door frames, the underside of eaves where the wall and the eaves meet, gaps in siding and at the corners of the house, the joints where steps and porches meet the house, seals around window panes, and mortar joints in masonry foundations, walls, and chimneys. These repairs could take you a few days to complete, but in the end will provide better weatherproofing for many years to come. Gutters need to be maintained on a periodic schedule. Usually once a year is adequate, but twice a year is even better. Cleaning them out and examining them for damage after a long winter is a good practice to get into. First, remove all leaves and other debris from the gutters and check for loose joints. Check the gutter outlet opening where the water flows into the downspout. The outlet should have either a leaf guard or a leaf strainer. Clean the debris from the leaf guard or strainer and place it back in position. Pour water into each gutter using a hose or a bucket of water. As the water flows, check for proper pitch for water drainage and check for leaks. Check each downspout for water flow and leaks. Clean the downspout with a plumber's snake if necessary. Finally, check all gutter hangers for tightness. If any repairs need to be made on the hangers or gutters themselves, refer to the additional information found in this section. Splash blocks may be necessary to install if the water from your gutters and downspouts does not flow away from the wall of your home. The buildup of water around your home's perimeter can cause damage to the foundation as well as damp basement walls. Splash blocks can be purchased at your local hardware store, and they're very easy to install. Place a splash block on the ground directly under each downspout. Instead of splashing on the ground, the water falls on the splash block and is directed away from the building. For best results, make sure the length of the splash block extends at least 3 feet from the house and that the grade slopes about 6 inches in 10 feet. Check the proper positioning of the splash blocks each time you inspect and clean the gutters and downspouts. Splash blocks will tend to settle into the ground over a period of time. If they've settled, rebuild the ground back to its original surface and replace the splash block. Again, this simple repair will eliminate water puddles and surface water near your home and will help protect the foundation from unnecessary abuse. Here are a few simple tips on working with wood outdoors that will help make your repairs simpler and longer lasting. Tip number 1. When replacing wooden flooring or steps, only replace what is necessary. The old adage, "don't fix it if it ain't broke," certainly applies here. However, if the section to be replaced is close to a cut length, then it may save you some time and extra work if you extend the repair to the closest cut length. A cut length is the length that a board is cut at the lumber yard and sold in stores. For example, if your repair is 3 feet and 10 inches in length, then it will save you from extra cutting to extend it to 4 feet and use 4-foot pre-cut boards. Tip number 2. When using finishing nails, it is good practice to sink the nails into the wood using a nail set and cover it with wood putty. This will not only make the structure look better, but will protect the nails from rusting. Tip number 3. When working with wood outside, consider weathering factors. You want your wood structure to be protected from the weather when completed. Pressure-treated lumber is a good way of ensuring protection. However, it costs more than regular lumber. You can also seal the wood with an outdoor sealer or paint. Tip number 4. Take your time with any repair you do. In haste, you may cause more damage than there was to begin with, thus causing more repairs to be needed. These are just a few basic tips to use when working outside with wood.